Imagine a company so powerful that it once ruled over millions of people, controlled vast territories, and shaped the fate of entire nations. This isn't the plot of a movie. This is the true story of the East Indian Company. But here's the real kicker. Where is this mighty company today? How did it go from ruling an entire empire to fading into history? Let's dive into the rise, reign, and the surprising end of the East Indian Company. Hello, Namaskar. Welcome to Mind Singh's weekly Wednesday podcast, Your Compliance Card, where we dive deep into the world of compliance. As Wednesday arrives, so do we, with deep insights, engaging discussion, and a fresh perspective about compliance and law. The story begins in England, way back in 1600. Queen Elizabeth I was on the throne, and English merchants were looking for a new way to get rich. At the time, spices like pepper, cloves, and cinnamon were incredibly valuable. They were used to preserve food, add flavor, and even medicine. But getting these spices from the east, places like India and Indonesia, wasn't easy. The journey was long and dangerous, and the Dutch and the Portuguese had already taken control of many of the trade routes. So a group of 218 English merchants came together and asked the Queen for permissions to start a company that would trade with the East. On December 31st, 1600, Queen Elizabeth signed a royal charter that created the East Indian Company. This charter gave the company the exclusive right to trade with all countries east of the Cape of Good Hope in Africa, which basically meant they had a monopoly on trade in the East Indies. At first, East India Company was just a small group of ships carrying English goods to trade for spices. But over time, the company grew bigger and more ambitious. It started to build its own ships, set up trading posts in different countries, and even negotiate deals with local rulers. The company wasn't just about trading goods. It was about making money, and lots of it. As the East Indian Company expanded, so did its power. In the early years, the company faced a lot of competition from the Dutch and the Portuguese, who didn't want to give up their control of the space of the spice trade. But the East Indian Company was determined. It started to build fortress and armed its ship to protect its interests. Soon the company wasn't just trading, it was fighting battles and taking control of territories. One of the biggest successes came in India. In 1615, the company managed to get permission from the Mughal emperor to set up a trading post in Surat, a city in the west coast of India. This was a huge deal because the Mughals were one of the most powerful empires in the world at the time. From Surat, the company began to establish more trading posts along the Indian coast, in places like Madras, now Chennai, Bombay, and Kolkata. As the company's influence grew in India, it started to play a bigger role in local politics. The company wasn't just a trader anymore. It was becoming a power broker. It started to make alliances with local rulers, help them in their wars, and in return, the company got more land, more power, and more wealth. By the mid-1700s, the East Indian Company was no longer just a trading company, it had become a major political force in India. The company's army, made of British soldiers and Indian sepoys, was now one of the most powerful military forces in the region. The company used this army to fight wars, overthrow rulers, and take control of huge part of India. One of the most important battles the company fought was the Battle of Plassey in 1757. This battle was a turning point in the company's history. It was fought between the company's forces led by Robert Clive and the Nawab of Bengal, who was the ruler of richest provinces in India. The company won the battle, and as a result, it gained control of Bengal, which was like hitting the jackpot. Bengal was incredibly wealthy, and the company started to collect taxes and make huge profits from its new territory. After the Battle of Plassey, the company continued to expand its control over India. It set up a system of government, collected taxes, and even mints its own coin. The company was now acting like a government, but still it was a private business. This was something completely new in history. A company that was also a ruler. But the East Indian Company's rise to power wasn't all glory and riches. There was a dark side to the company's rule. The company was more interested in making money than in taking care of the people it ruled. It imposed hefty taxes on the local population and forced farmers to grow crops like indigo and opium, which were valuable for trade but left people without enough food. One of the worst tragedies that happened under the company's rule was the Bengal famine in 1770. Millions of people in Bengal starved to death because there wasn't enough food to go around. Instead of helping, the company kept exporting rice and other food to Europe to make money. This showed just how ruthless the company could be in its pursuit of profit. As the company's power grew, so did the problems. People in India were getting fed up with the company's rule. There were uprisings and rebellions. As more and more people fought back against the company's control, the biggest of these was the Indian Rebellion of 1857, also known as the Sepoy Mutiny. The rebellion started when Indian soldiers in the company's army, known as sepoys, refused to use the new rifle cartridges that they believed were greased with cow and pig fat, an insult to both Hindu and Muslim soldiers. The rebellion quickly spread, with Indian rulers and the general population joining the fight against the company. It was a brutal and bloody conflict, with hefty losses on both sides. The rebellion was eventually crushed, but it showed the British government that the East Indian Company was no longer able to control India on its own. The British government decided to take direct control of India, and in 1858, the East Indian Company was dissolved. The company's territory, army, and even its employees were taken over by the British Crown. The East Indian Company might have been dissolved, but its impact on history is still felt today. The company played a huge role in the creation of a British Empire and in shaping the history of India and other parts of Asia. The company's actions also had a lasting effect on global trade and economics. But the company's legacy is also a reminder of the dangers of unchecked power and greed. The East Indian Company started as a simple trading company, but it became something much more dangerous. It was a company that put profit above all else, even when it meant causing suffering and hardship for millions of people. The story of East Indian Company is a powerful example of how business can grow beyond its original purpose and become something far more complex and dangerous. It's a story that reminds us of the importance of ethical business practices and the need for checks and balances in any organization. As we look back on the history of East Indian Company, it's a chance to reflect on the lessons we can learn from the past. Because while the world has changed a lot since the days of the East Indian Company, the challenges of power, greed, and responsibility are still with us today. Thanks for tuning into MindSyncs podcast. If you found this episode informative, don't forget to subscribe for more updates on the world of compliance and advisory services. Until next time, stay compliant, stay informed.